That's really big. Good morning.
Morning.
One of the things I wanted to challenge you on doing, I guess my goal here today is to be sure when you walk away, you have three things you want to do in the next 90 days. That's it. And one of the things I've learned over time is I've gone through a lot of like classes and seminars and you name it, events, and I have often taken notes, taken pictures. I don't have any slides. I take pictures of slides, and then I really didn't do anything with it, right? I kind of left. And so one of the things I shifted about 4 or 5 years ago is where I'm in any type of an event or class or whatever, I have a list of action items. And so I listen, I kind of, and sometimes even something is said, but it makes me think of something else. So I'm not offended if I say something that has nothing to do with you, but makes you think of something else. And you put that down as an action item to put in place, because that's the secret sauce and all these things. So, and what I'm sharing with you today is 5 habits of being long in the business. How many people here have been in the business more than 10 years? All right, good. How about more than 20 years? All right, we still got how about more than 30 years? All right, so I won. So, oh, you were still in? No, I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
no.
So I usually do. I'm 38 years in the real estate business. So I'm very qualified to talk about this, of how to stay long in the business. And it's interesting because I've seen a lot of people come and go, succeed, have success, get out of the business. I've just seen a lot of it. And I've always been thoughtful, like what is the secret behind people staying long in the business? And guess what? Yep, do I say the same things over and over again? Yeah, I do. And so that's the reality is business, mastering business is almost like boring. It's really doing the basics really well. So let me just kind of share some things that have jumped out. And by the way, I love that you're showing the stats, but let me tell you this, markets don't matter, habits do. Because in just the last couple of days, I've talked to 2 different agents who are having their best years ever. So don't let market, news, things get in the way, because there is plenty of business out there for you to take. In fact, as an agent, as a business owner, I love market corrections because I can grab more market share, and there's more opportunities in these type of environments than there ever are in a high producing market, right? Yeah. So just always have that mindset. So the number one thing for a habit that I see that gives people longevity in the business is lead generation.
Surprise!
Exciting stuff. Yeah, that's usually the reaction to get to that. Here's the reality: is it's kind of a bad word. Lead generation means a lot, but at the end of the day, it has to be something you can measure. So you have to be able to look at it. And my that was one thing when I got in the real estate business a long time ago. I was not good at this, and I didn't know anybody because we moved to Atlanta, but I had to do it because I needed to make some money. So I just kept doing it over and over, and it was terrible. I was terrified of it, whatever. But you do something enough times, you get better and better and better. And one of the things I learned from others who have had success is time block. That it had to be a part of my schedule. That first thing in the morning, everybody knew as I grew a team, they knew that I was on the phone making my calls to my database, to expireds, for sub owners, all these things that I had to do until about 11 o'clock. And then the rest of the day took me where it's going. Now, your lead generation could be whatever you want to do, but it has to be measurable. You go, well, I just like to have conversations with people. Great. You're really good at that. Is that something you can measure? Yeah. So you have to measure what's your goal? Is it 5, 10 conversations a day where you ask somebody for the business or you ask for a referral? Track it. Because again, when you have that measurement, whatever, if it's social media, there's ways to track that. How do you interact? What's your likes? What's your shares? What's your comments? Have a certain amount, time block it, put in a certain time. Just a real quick reminder, scrolling in social media for 3 hours is not lead generation. So that's something that's measured. What to me is really cool about when you measure that is it actually gives you freedom. Because my biggest thing as business was going on, it gave me the option to say no. And so you saw in the stats that it was like there's more inventory today. In fact, we're hovering at 5 months plus now of inventory. And so average days on market 48 days. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me tell you what normal history was like. It was about 90 days in the market was really good back in the day. For many, many years, it's always been that way. And 6 months of inventory is pretty normal. We have not been in a normal market for many years, for at least 5 years. So throw all that out and all the habits that came with that, because now it's different. You got to play this game. So the key is you want the option to say no, because if you're sitting down meeting with a potential seller and they're not motivated, or they're not realistic on price, or they're just a jerk.
Or all three.
Yeah, or sometimes all three. And you have no measured lead generation. What do you, and this is the one that popped up, what do?
You take the listing anyway.
Yeah, and do they get better?
No, they get worse.
It's on you. I would say about 30% of the time as an agent, I walked away from listings. I wasn't fearful because I had the systems going on lead generation. I had options. Having the option to say no is critical because you want to walk away from this. I would work harder to get the person who needed to sell, was going to price well, and I enjoyed working with them. And there was plenty of them. So just look at that when you're not having the systems around your lead generation, you're making it harder on yourself. So get past that, get some systems in place, and that gives you more longevity. Also, just eliminate the fear around it. It opens up opportunities. I didn't understand that as much in the early days of making all those calls, and I made a lot of calls. But I was fearful initially, and then I wasn't, and it just became a numbers game for me. But I've used it in my life ever since, and I still to today. Like, I buy real estate properties. Well, my goal is I have 5 conversations a week that I measure. That I want to be sure I tell everybody I'm a cash buyer. I can close in 2 weeks, and I'm typically buying 20% below market. And if there's a lot of repairs, I'm going to have to add that onto it. What I just do? I just lead generate. Right? I'm a buyer of investment properties. If you have somebody, I just gave you some parameters around that. So be sure that you're thinking of where that falls in all parts of your life. Just be sure you're taking advantage of that. So just be sure that the lead generation is measured. And here's another thing too, I realized with top agents is most agents, I would say 90% of the business comes from 3 sources of lead generation. Okay, and one I'm getting ready to talk about, the database. But whatever that may be for you, just be sure. If you have 6 or 7 things that you're trying and doing, that's too much, and you're not going to be good at any of them. Get it honed down to what are the 3, and then always have 4 or 5 that maybe at some point, if it gets really better, they can replace one of the 3. Does that make sense? Okay. So the second one is a simple one that I see in everybody, a lot of the top agents, is build and manage a database. Is this really complicated?
No.
No. But it's the truth. I talk to top agents, and I would say most of them, 60, 85% of their business comes from their database. So you got to do it. Especially, this is for longevity. Remember, this is what I'm talking about, is you have to have a database, you have to be adding to it, and you have to be touching it. And from a touch standpoint, whatever you're doing, double or triple it. Because this day and age, I get so many texts, and I mean, you get texts all the time about getting financing or selling one of your houses. I mean, it's constant. So you have to be looking at how you do it. And here's the book I would recommend too, Unreasonable Hospitality with Will Goddard. Again, Unreasonable Hospitality with Will Goddard. He spoke at one of the CEO events at KW Family Reunion. I really enjoyed it. I think it's important that you feel, what do you do in your database and your clients? Some of you are amazing. In fact, you got 2 agents I know kill this at a high level. I know Ann does a great job with it. Nikki Bonds, Stacey Regattas. I mean, they do amazing things with their clientele, from events to touches. Be sure that you are doing that, and you got to start doing it now and be consistent. You can't start and stop and start and stop. There has to be consistency. When you do that, that's really about the only way to really measure what is the value of your business. Because if you came to me and said, well, what's my business worth? I would say, well, how many people is in your database? How many touches? Describe some of the touches you do. How much business comes out of it? That's the questions I would ask you. So if you don't have a database and are organized around it, then you're just kind of winging it and you don't have any value in your business. So if you want long term, you've got to add those things. And it's like I said, it's just absolute that you have to do it. The third thing is leverage. This is a critical piece, again, for the longevity part. There's no doubt everybody in this room has a work ethic, and you'll work hard. But if you're working 24/7, you're not long term. You're just going to burn out at some point. So you have to start implementing as you get the business up to a level. What are some layers of leverage that you put in place? I would say, obviously, one of the things, and we were just hearing this just a few minutes ago, is listings. And if you want to grow a big business, getting listings is great leverage. This is the rules have changed again, and again, we were talking about things. If they're sitting a little bit longer, that means that the pricing is an issue. It's really been interesting. I've had more consulting with top agents wanting to know how to have the conversations of pricing the homes right, which I just thought was really interesting. Because have you had to worry about that in the last 5 years? No, pricing was throwing a dart at the wall and see what happens. And sometimes you were right and it sold for more. You had 20 offers on it. That's great. That's gone. And so now we are at the marketplace where motivation matters, pricing matters. As an agent, again, I suppose it's 90 days of market. And I called on expired. It was really funny. I was talking to another agent the other day, and they just started having success with calling expired listings. I was so excited because it kind of made me valid again. Because we haven't talked about expired listings in a long time. I mean, it hasn't been an issue, but it's now back to an issue. And so you have to be tough in talking to sellers. And one of the things I always did when I was talking to sellers up front and setting my appointment with them, I was asking, on a scale 1 to 10, 10 meaning you need to sell yesterday, or 1 because we sell the home, how would you rank yourself? And if they weren't like over a 6, I didn't bother. They said, well, I'm a 2 or 3. You know, if we sell, great. If we don't, yeah, fine. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll move on to the next one. Let somebody else take care of that one. I want the person who says, yeah, well, we've already got a home. And if they say we're motivated, so great, where are you moving to? And so we already have a home in Florida. Like, perfect. I can help you. Let's look at pricing. And you have to be, and it's interesting too now with AI and all the tools that sellers have, you have to be prepared. They're going to be as prepared as you are walking in. In fact, they might be better prepared than you are, especially if you're winging it. So you have to do a lot of analysis, a lot of data going into that appointment meeting with that seller to be sure that you're getting good direction. Maybe that you're spending the money or they're spending the money doing an appraisal up front. But you've got to do those things now to compete and to be sure that you're advising them on an aggressive price. Are there often be sitting there with 8? They said, well, I have another agent that said they can list for more. Is that going to happen? All right. And if you can't convince them to go on, I was always fine. Well, I just set it up and say, hey, listen, I'm being totally honest with what I think pricing is. And listen, if you sell that, wonderful. But if in 2 to 3 weeks, that agent comes to you and asks you to drop the price, I just want you to remember this conversation. And I'm here. And I couldn't tell you how many times where within 30 days, I'm getting a phone call of a pretty aggravated seller that just fired their agent because in 2 weeks they came in to ask to drop the price. And they missed that window of being on as a fresh new listing. So be sure that you're having fierce conversations with Susan Scott's great. This is Struggle for You. It's a great book, great read on that. But you have to build this into what you're doing today to compete at a high level. And again, have that longevity, because if you list a house and sell it, you will build momentum. As not only the whole neighborhood's paying attention because more inventory is sitting. So when a house does sell and someone's motivated, they're paying attention to that. If you list 2 homes in the neighborhood and they never sell, that's the opposite. They're like, wow, that agent can't sell a house. So just be sure you protect them that. But that's important as far as building the leverage is having a good listing inventory. I like listings from that standpoint because I could measure it. I knew that the amount of calls and that would give me a certain amount of appointments, would give me a certain amount of listings. I knew that if I had a certain amount of listings in a market that's more balanced, I usually would list about 150 homes a year and I would sell 150 homes. It wasn't an exact listing, but it was buyers. It was just an easy number. But my business was very measured. I knew what was going on with it. So that's critical. Just be sure you're using systems, and this is still with leverage, systems and technology to have leverage in your life. There's a lot of options out there. Just be sure that you're not doing 20 at one time. Try one. If it doesn't work, get rid of it 3 or 4 months. Try something else. Everybody's different of what works for you. But be sure that you're utilizing that for leverage. And I would say that the next thing is people part of leverage. You can go down using a virtual assistant. I think people have done that very well. There's more options of that, whether it's overseas or local. And also think, when you think about leverage, as you grow your business, don't rule out that leverage could be delegating someone doing your laundry, someone mowing your yard, cleaning your house. I don't know if you enjoy doing those things. You do, great, so be it. I didn't. I wanted to buy my time back. And so I bought my time back to spend more time with my kids or with my significant other, or just having some personal time. So look at ways in your life as you're going, because again, this is about longevity. You have to have ways, you have to have white space in your life that you can delegate. I would challenge you, if you want to grow a big business, at some point, you have to figure out how to hire a full-time person that can take over all the administrative side of your business so you can stay in the lane of what you're best at. And when Marcy and I, my wife and I, when we first started, first time we hired an assistant, we had no idea what we were doing. And by the way, I have out-failed and out-mistaked everybody in this room. So when I tell you things, it's because I screwed it up already and I figured out how to do it. And so it is not perfect. I know some probably people in this room that said, well, I hired an assistant. It was a nightmare. I can trump your stories. So don't worry about that. Just learn from that. And you got career vision, you got all these courses and things you can learn, but you want to learn this part because it is the most amazing part when you get the right person. Our first person that we hired was not that person. We had no idea what to expect. I remember it's funny because this person, she at about 4:45, she would pack up all her things, and her desk was like right at a table where there was a clock above it. And she would pack all her stuff up before, and she would just sit and look at the clock. And Marcy and I were like, "Is that normal?" Well, we got out. No, it's not. And I was like, she was doing okay, but it wasn't until I experienced. I actually hired Beth Walker later on. It was on our team, and all of a sudden I realized what it looked like. And what you'll find when you have, like, if you're in business with maybe cul-de-sac town, they'll push things back. They won't finish the things you ask them to do, and you have to constantly are kind of hunting them down to get things done. When you get in the business with the right talent, they pull things away from you. And that was what I all of a sudden experienced. And it was a total shift in my world because they kept me totally, and didn't do my job was to lead generate, set appointments, go on listing appointments, negotiate contracts. That was my job. Everything else was the fall on them. And they protected me and pushed me to keep me in that lane. And that was when everything shifted for us, where we realized, wow, we could go this team. And then we launched one of the first few offices. Sugarloaf, we launched in 1999, Snellville in 2002, this office in 2004. 2004. A while back. And so, but that was because of this shift of understanding that, wow, I can delegate some of these things. And that was a great learning lesson. So I want you to be on that path. Just understand that it's a bumpy path and it's not easy, but you do want that. Again, if we're talking about being in the business long term and growing a big business, it's necessary. Fourth one is goals to action. This is again, I know these are a little basic, but that's a big one for Marcy and I. Is number one, you have to have goals in your life, business, personal. You have to look at spiritual, physical, to relationships, to the financial world, the business side. All these goals are important. How many people here struggle with setting goals? It's okay. It's hard. It's not easy. So here's what I would do is a good way to do it, to kind of like this, is start with just trying to work on a bucket list. And here's the thing, when you go through a correction and maybe financially it's been a challenge for you, is when you're working on a bucket list, say if money didn't matter, this is what I like to do. And just start writing things out. Small things, big things, medium size, it doesn't matter. There's no rules in this. It's just to get you writing and dreaming again. Because sometimes when life happens to us, we get kind of locked down and we don't think big, like we don't dream as much as when we were younger. And so be sure that you take that time to do that. Start thinking about it. It sort of helps you as far as what are some goals that are important to you. Because I do believe that it's important that you have non-negotiables in your life. And you have goals set up. If a relationship's important to you, you're going to have to take time for these things. And again, it's about building business around that. When you're setting up goals in the business, I'm more of a unit guy, meaning that I look at written units, listing units, closing units, because I can control that. If the volume is always kind of, if I sell a $5 million home and that was one sale, my goal was, I just can't control that. That's going to happen. It might be, it's crazy, it's amazing. But I always would say, okay, here's how many listing units I'm going to take, here's how many written units, and here's my closing units I want for the year. And then be sure the two things that are important in all this is that you are running on a P&L, profit and loss statement. I won't ask them hands on that one. I can tell somebody already have looked away from me. I know it's hard, but go find an accountant, somebody to help ask your leadership. They can introduce you to some people. You need to have a P&L statement. If you don't have a P&L statement, you have what's called a hobby. And I just want you've got to have a P&L. It doesn't matter. There's many times where the first time I was working on a P&L, I'm like, wow, I'm losing money. That's not good. And the other part of this is having a net worth statement. And again, first time I did a net worth statement, it was negative. I remember thinking that's probably not good, but I can work on it. You have to, if you're setting on goals and looking going forward, you have to always have a perspective of where you are today. And so those are important. Net worth sheets are so easy. You can go online. It's just assets and liabilities, and understand where you're at. I was given advice many years ago about reviewing that consistently. For Marcy and I, we would actually kind of got a habit every Sunday night. We would sit down and talk about it. Net worth doesn't move much in 1 week. But what I found and what I didn't understand, the brilliance on that recommendation to us was it started helping us make better decisions on what we were doing, whether we were buying a new car or buying a used car or whatever it may be. Because every time you look at that, oh, well, that's a negative impact on my net worth sheet. And one of the things that with net worth is it's like a hockey stick. It's a slow growth of decisions and discipline over time, and then it starts to take off. But most people don't go through that time period. It's really boring and frustrating. This day and age with social media, everybody thinks they're going to create Facebook tomorrow. That's just pretty rare. There's more failures on businesses and things that you are aware of. Just build it slowly and methodically and discipline. Get some advice on it. It's a critical piece. But you have to, again, those goals are just critical. And what happens too is the magic. I mentioned earlier about how I look at when I go to classes. I just write down the action items. You get to the goals, the whole secret sauce is getting those converted into action steps. And it hits on your daily calendar. However you use that, a to-do list, you want to do it the night before on what your daily to-dos are, and be sure it's a reasonable number of what you're going to do the next day. I don't care what you use. And I can tell you with calendars and to-do list, the most successful system is what?
The one you do.
She's been a couple of my clients. But I mean, that's true. It's one you're going to use. It doesn't matter. Whatever it's going to be so that you have clarity. But the thing is, I started doing it because I was having a hard time sleeping. And so I don't know if you're one of those ones wake up in the middle of the night, you've had a paper bed and you're writing down all the, oh, I forgot about that. I got to add this. Well, understand that you're also training your brain to do that. You have to break that loop. So that's why I started doing, before I would go to sleep, I would go through all my to-dos, look at prioritizing what are the things that are most critical, be sure that it's probably 3 to 5 things I have to do tomorrow that I need to get done. And then I had clarity, and I would sleep better, and I would wake up and get those things done before noon. So these are things that just simple little stuff, but I'm telling you, it's what moves the needle and it keeps you going. Because it's otherwise, if you're just always reacting, it's not a good place to be, and you probably will burn out. The last thing is probably the one of the most important. Oh, and also on the goals, a great book on this is All It Takes Is a Goal by John Acuff, Acuff, I think. But All It Takes Is a Goal. Great book. If you struggle with this, I like the way he talks about goals. He talks about the New Year's resolution myth. I always use the gym as a good example because for many, many years I was in this gym. I used to remember I hated January. Hated it. You know why? Everybody shows up because their new resolution is I'm going to start working out. And it was crazy. This happened every year. January, packed. February, still pretty full. Thinning out. March, back to normal. So the failure rate by February is pretty high. And it's just done. So what he talks about is breaking your goal down to better steps and smaller, simple steps, and getting you on this path and moving you the right momentum. So it's a great book on that. So the 5th one, I'm going to get back to this, is managing your energy. And this is the part where you probably don't like some of the things I say, but this isn't a critical thing. I'm better at it now than I was before. I turned 60 this year. And it was like, wow, you know, you start, I remember when I turned 50, I'm like, I'm an ex-football player. So I'm like, wow, it's like halftime, you know, what are my adjustments and what I'm going to do going forward? Well, I made a commitment. I need to be sure I did a pretty good job. Working out's always been easy for me, but there's other parts like sleep. You know, the three things to me is you got to sleep well, eat well, and exercise. Sorry, but those are really important for our bodies. And the sleep well thing I struggled with for many years. I always just was kind of like a guy. I always got up at 5 in the morning. Had 4 kids, so sometimes getting to bed early was a challenge. And so I just, you know, I get 5 hours, I'm gonna be fine. And then you start doing the research and you go, yeah, it's not probably a good thing. Because sleep is a real critical piece for recovery, for your brain repair, for your body, all these things. It's just an important place to have. And so I went out and got an Aura ring, and some of you have been around me, you've heard me talk about this multiple times, but it was very impactful for me. I kind of hated it because it was real clear accountability. I like red wine. Turns out that that's not really good for your sleep.
Depends on
Yeah.
what you drink.
Yeah, it's probably like one glass is fine, or like if you're gonna go all in, then that's you're gonna sleep.
Go big
Yeah,
or
right. Yeah. But I mean, I realized my heart rate goes up. I didn't understand all these things. I just didn't know how to research it. So I said, all right. So I started understanding this stuff. And then actually, I drink less today than I used to. I still enjoy red wine on the weekends or something like that, but I don't do it anywhere I used to be. I try to do it earlier because if later I would do it, it would impact my sleep. Heart rate would be up. I'd have really bad sleep. Eating late is another thing that really messes your sleep up. So getting back in the habit of eating earlier was a big deal. All these things matter just as far as being just more thoughtful. Again, I want to play the long game. I love business. People always ask me, I guess, because I'm not older now, like, when are you retiring? I'm like, okay. Number one, Marcy probably wouldn't let me, but I'd drive her nuts. But I like business and I like to have energy, and so it's important. So that ordering was a big deal. Look at those things. You can have the Apple Watches, but Aura is probably a little more accurate for the sleep side of things. It's great accountability to understand how you are taking care of yourself from that standpoint. Eating clean. We were fortunate. My daughter, not fortunate for her part, but she became gluten-free and dairy-free. She was a track athlete. We didn't realize that was a problem. So every summer when she was home, we had, put all these products in our house. I'm gonna start trying them, and like, so I'm like, not that bad. So I was like, you know what? So I shifted some things. I don't eat bread anymore, really. A rare occasion. I stay fairly gluten-free, and I really don't drink dairy. So I just try to eat clean, and from that standpoint. And again, trying to eat dinner earlier so I get better sleep at night. I go to bed early than I used to, and I know for me, and I know I'm giving a lot of data here, like, oh, great, but I know for me, I have to be in a bed for 8 hours to get 7 hours of sleep. Because I kind of toss and turn and wake up a little bit. And I didn't know that.
What's your bedtime?
Huh?
What's your bedtime?
I go to bed ideally 9:30, absolutely before 10. And then I usually have it 6 o'clock. I used to be earlier, but 6 o'clock. So I get 10 to 6, it gives me 8 hours of bed. And it gives me typically 7 hours. I got 7 this morning. Cool. Now I'm a sleep dork, it's like my kids are like, shut up, Dad. But I mean, I'm just telling you, I noticed the difference, and how I feel. And so that's why I wanted to share that. And exercise is critical. However it works best for you. If it's morning, if it's afternoon, you just need to get moving, to pay attention to your steps. I have a stand-up desk. I love having phone. I hate Zoom because I can't move, but I love being on the phone calls because I pace. I have a path that's wearing around my desk, but I get a lot of steps, doing that. And then I work out. I think it's good to work out with weights, and also a mix of cardio. Those are important for our bodies. Again, for long term. I'm saying going crazy, but those things matter. Again, if you want to have longevity and feel good. The morning routine. A morning routine is also important. I'm better at that now than I used to be. Again, as far as your business things are critical, but even before that, early in the morning is just a nice time. That's why I like to get up at 6, because no one's bothered me until about 8. So I like that time period where I read. And this is another thing as far as managing energy, is you have to be doing a personal development path. That's why you go to classes. That's why you listen to things. That's why you read. Look at Audible. Audible, I still think you need both reading and Audible, because Audible, you're only getting some of it. I always say, I mean, if you're listening to Audible while you're driving, either you're really getting good retention or you're a good driver, but you're not both. So just because it's hard to pay attention, but I like reading them both and doing those things. I just keep track. I'm not a great reader. I've gotten better, but that I just made it a goal to be sure that I was chipping away and reading. And I think it's important to continue, especially as we get older and more experienced. We have wisdom, and I've seen it also. Ego gets in the way of people, and they think they know everything. So I always kind of wake up, and if I ever have a day where I go, I think I know everything, I'm just going to ask David to kind of slap me upside the head or something, yeah, because it's a bad thing to be at. I've seen ego take over a lot, take people in the wrong direction. Relationships matter a lot. When they have done interviews, there's been books written about people on their deathbed. They never talk about they wish they worked harder to do this. There's more about the relationships, and be sure you don't mess that along the way. Those are critical. The significant others, your kids, your family, friends, don't miss that. That's an important part of being human. And the experiences. There's a great book. It's called Die with Zero. Bill Perkins. Sorry, you have quite a reading list for you anyway. Die with Zero. It kind of surprised me because I thought it was like more of like a estate planning thing or book, but it's more about experiences. And I really think a lot. I have in the past, but I really think a lot about experiences now, because when you think in life and you look back, you really think about vacations, really cool times, whether it's with friends or family, a hike. You think about that. And that's another thing that can help you with goal setting. Like, look back in your life. What made you the happiest? Are you still doing it? If you're not today, maybe that needs to be a new goal to put that back in your life. But the experiences, and also being really thoughtful, like Marcy and I've talked about this quite a bit, where like, we love to hike, we love to do these things, and you start going, well, I'm 60. I don't know if I'm going to be really hiking at 85. I'm like, so you start thinking, okay, I need to, like, we want to go to Machu Picchu. Like, we should do that sooner than later. And so we've looked at it, how we plan to go do that. So just being thoughtful of where you are in the season of life, of experiences that you want to have, plan for it. And here's the other thing, one of my final things I want to share with you is vacations. This is a critical piece, and I was probably most of us in this room violate. We get busy and we don't plan ahead on vacations. You're missing the boat. Because with vacations, part of the fun thing of vacations is anticipating. Have you ever wondered why you were a superstar the day before you go on a vacation? You ever experienced that? Like everything, like you're amazing. Everything's working, you're saying the right things. Everybody wants to list their house today. Offers are coming in. You ever experienced that? Yeah. Right? Why is that?
Because you're excited.
Exactly.
You're on top of your game.
Your energy. You're like, I'm gonna get stuff done. I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna be focused. I have such clarity in these last couple of days, and you just create all this energy around your business. Imagine if you're running your business that way every day. This is a funny. I've shared this. Some of you have heard this story before. Sorry, I had the same old story, so I don't know. I can't tell you different. But I remember we were analyzing our mega agent business, and I couldn't figure out, because I was very consistent. We always were like 150 closed units. And there was one year, it was 90, I think it was 97. My business popped up pretty significantly. I couldn't figure out why, because I did nothing differently. And it was really, when we started to get into it, I realized it was the year we took the most vacations. That was the only variable I could find. And I was like, wow, I was so excited to find that. But it's true, again, but these are things you have to have systems of lead generation. You have to have leverage in your life. You have to all these things. And then that's when you schedule time. And I've hired people to come on and say, I want you to understand part of your job is so I can go on vacation. So I need you to own this stuff. And I remember the first time we went on a vacation, I told my assistant, she was licensed. I said, here's the deal. Don't call me. Call, ask the team leader, if the office is burning down, don't call me. I can't do anything about it. I'm in Mexico. I can't do anything about it. Just go with it. And it was weird. It was the first time we disconnected for a week. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I came back and they actually written 3 contracts and listed 3 houses. I was like, so beautiful. I went on vacation again. But the thing about it is one of the things that we do is we sit down usually about October, November, and Marcy and I, we set out our calendars. It's the first thing we do for the next year. Is we plan all our vacations and trips. Our kids are getting older, so it's harder to get them in. So they love it because they can go to their employer and say, "Hey, so I need to take some time off 6 months from now." They're like, "Sure, no one's asking for that." So we plan ahead, and we anticipate it, we talk about it. It brings such great energy to us, and so just don't miss that. And here's another rule I have: when you're on a vacation, we can't come home until we plan the next vacation and booked it. That's kind of the way we do it because isn't that cool? Why? Because it's always a bummer coming home. You're like, oh, back to the salt mine. Yeah, you're like, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, I got something back on the books and we're ready to go. So these are things that I know that none of them it's like earth shattering. Probably heard these things before. I'm just telling you, I want to share what I've seen, what we've experienced, of how to play the long game. All these things matter. I hope that you got something out of this, that at least 3 things you can implement in the next 90 days. Maybe one of them is to go book a vacation and book it out, and have it book somewhere you can. Most hotels you can book and it's refundable, at least do that. So it's kind of locking in because it's so, you just don't want to miss that because that helps us. The business is a tough business and you're going to have tough weeks and months. And it's always nice to have that out there to kind of look at that's coming up. And so be sure you're doing that. Is there any questions for me? Is this helpful? You guys, you have your 3 things you can do in 90 days? We good? Okay. Thanks for your time.
Tommy Naha. Come on, share something. Book a vacation. Book a vacation. Okay.
I'm going on vacation with Bryan and Marcy.
Well, I've learned from all of our leadership meetings, Marcy always asks, and she's in her presentation at our Atlanta Partners meetings, have you planned your next vacation? And for a long time, I never raised my hand. And so I planned mine last week because I know you are coming and our meeting in 2 weeks. And I was like, I booked a whole week for Thanksgiving.
Good.
And yeah, and so like just it kind of gives you a renewed energy to have something to look forward to with your family, with your kids and your grandkids and stuff. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
So that was a great thing, like just a habit to start doing because it just changes. Your energy changes.
Yeah, and if you don't have an assistant, somebody you can kind of delegate some of the things, maybe partner with another agent, kind of make a deal that, hey, when I go on vacation, you cover my stuff. When you go on vacation, I'll cover your stuff. And don't call me. Like, just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Involve the team leader if they have to. Or, just to get those breaks. It's harder these days to get that disconnect. And I think it's real important for us, just again, on the longevity side, but just having to feel human and have that little break to have thinking time is just critical.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing to that. So I went on vacation a few months ago to Mexico. I literally left my phone in the safe in the room all day for an entire day.
Yeah.
And I got back and the sky didn't fall.
No.
Like I was like, my kids knew where I was, so if they needed me, they knew where they could call me to like have somebody come find me at the pool or at the beach. But I was like, it was like not. I didn't miss a single thing.
No.
And
Yeah,
it
the reality is
was,
we're not brain surfing.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Everybody got along just fine. Yeah,
Right.
it's awesome. Who else? Who else wants to share?
And non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tend to just kind of like, but it's like boundaries. Just have, certain things that it's like, nope, that's where I draw the line.
Yep. Yeah. Have your standards. Have your boundaries.
So I know I've heard Bryan talk a lot. Sorry, that's okay. But one thing that you said today hit just a little bit different, and it's that time blocking gives you freedom.
Yeah.
And that hit just a little different today.
Well, it does. Yeah.
Fair.
Michelle, you raised your hand.
I like the line, how motivated are you to sell on a scale from 1 to 10?
Okay.
If it's under a 6, then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All those conversations are back. It's like, it matters, motivation and pricing.
Yeah, and how much time you spend, and because time is valuable. If it's your most valuable asset, so don't waste it on people that want to waste it and don't have any respect for it. So, anybody else want to share?
Manage your energy.
Manage your energy. Right.
Have a schedule, do things.
Yes, ma'am.
The action to your goals, I feel like is really important. So I know that there's a quote by Jim Rohn that says self-education makes you living. I feel like it's really important to set aside daily time that you're proving yourself.
Another thing I learned, and this is something that you taught me and our leadership stuff, is set goals around what if money wasn't an issue? Or what if you could fail at something? What would you actually do? What actions would you take? What would you do with that? And a lot of it is a lot more achievable than you give yourself credit for if you plan ahead and you can map out what that path looks like. So I encourage you guys to do that.